pass on to Emad and Therese. If you guys have any questions, you can wait till the end. That would be great. But if there's obviously any pressing questions, you can just stop us at any time. So we're starting with the agenda. So married life before children. So the actual couple time, the fun times of us being together, and building that foundation. Then preparation of having kids, babies on the stage, and then we're talking about family life when the kids grow up a little bit older, when they go into school, and marriage after children, who then become adults. And Tina can start.
We haven't actually discussed who's saying what, so it's going to be a bit of a... So, marriage before children. So, we wanted to talk about this because there's so much when you do start to have children. I'm sure anyone that has children are now thinking, oh, I wish we'd started this from before, because you can see how much more difficult things get once you do have children. So before that, we had to adjust to being married and knowing each other's strengths, knowing each other's weaknesses, understanding how we communicate. The reason why this is so important is because when you do start to have children, there's going to be more and more things that come up, and you need to be able to communicate with each other and understand what works with you and what works with your partner as well. Because when you have children, there's going to be more issues that arise, and you need to know how to deal with them then. The other thing is also praying with each other, and that's something that I'll admit we didn't used to do very well. And you can see when you do have children how much that becomes an issue, because if you're not used to doing it beforehand, it then becomes another thing that you have to try and learn how to do. So it's great to have that started at the beginning.
So to give you an example, now that in the beginning when we were just together, Tina was very good with her private time prayers, and I not so much. But we actually, using those two styles, we kind of bounced off each other and done the balance of individual praying throughout the day. And learning on when to use the prayer times as well. So obviously if we're too exhausted after work, it's going to be a lot less influential praying than if it's in the morning just before we head out, for example. And moving on to our social lives, this is a point that when we first got married, I was, let's just say, a bit of a socialite, so I was used to going out every other night. And Tina was obviously a home girl. I say that in the nicest way. 9 p.m. bedtime. I'm used to having dinner at 9 p.m. But I mean, that is the beauty of getting married in the beginning stages, where you kind of take the mickey out of each other's kind of routines, but ultimately it's just adapting and turning it into one. But it's also realizing our prioritizing when we're going out to socializing. So what is absolutely necessary to go out for a couple of hours to see someone where you can probably do it over the phone and have more quality time with the wife. I was told to say that.
The next bit is service. It's so important because having children is a service. Like for me, that is what it's all about. Service is doing something that you don't necessarily want to do, or something that you find difficult to do. So when you're married without children, this is when you start to learn how to do service. And if you learn that throughout your time there, you're going to find having children a lot more easier because you're used to serving. And it was one of the things I remember talking to Warner Tomas about Mark before when we were dating. And I was like, I'm not really sure about him. And the one thing he said to me was, he has a heart of service. And for me, that now means a heart of service means a good father, because if you can serve, it means you know how to serve children.
This is recorded.
So yeah, we're going to then show you a video. It's what we thought parenting is going to be like versus what it is, and it's a bit of a funny one.
If you know Michael McIntyre, this is the clean version. So it's life about parenting.
And there are people in this room who do have children, and there are people in this room who don't have children. And the people who don't have children, they think they know, they think they know. It should be have children. Sometimes they chat about it.
You get the idea. So yeah, when I look at my cousins, this is exactly what I think, because I'm like, oh, you guys have it easy. But yeah, so now we're going to talk about married life with children or maybe a toddler stage. So the struggles we found, struggles like juggling family time, juggling work, juggling time with each other as a couple, which is so important. We've mentioned that last month. Our spiritual life, our friendships, socializing. So there's so much stuff that we have to kind of juggle at the same time. And how we manage that and how we deal with the stress. So, first thing we found, by the way, these are all things that occur in the whole stages of life. I think Emad kind of helped us with this. We were like, oh, these are what we struggle now with, and he was saying, well, actually, you come across these things throughout the rest of your journey as, parents. So the first thing we thought is important is we mentioned seeing parenthood as a service. So prioritizing what's my first, and you've got this time for prayer, this time for each other, this time for work. One of the other things that come up is time to spend with your children with their academic skills. And I come home, the last thing I want to do is teach my son. But if I can start doing these little things, even if it's just a 5-minute, hold your pencil correctly and things like this, when he starts to grow older, it's going to be more. It's going to be, 20 minutes of comprehension. I remember my mum sitting with me, bless her. She didn't know any English very well. We would read, I think it was year 3, we would read Great Expectations. And my mum didn't know English, so she had a huge dictionary. Do you remember? A huge dictionary that was Arabic and English. And every word she didn't know, she would look it up. And then she would explain it to me. And it was supposed to take 20 minutes, and it took us a good hour for my day. And my mum would sit and she would do all of that with me, and I forget. Or like when we were doing exams and I'd be staying up, my mum would sit and read, and she would read her Bible. And I remember her trying to encourage me, and she would be like, I just want to finish this chapter. I'm like, Mum, I'm tired. I want to sleep now. She'd like, carry on. The thing is, our parents do so much, and I only start to realise that now as a parent, that if I don't do these little things now, what am I going to do when my child grows a bit older and he needs a bit more help with maths or whatever? Like, we need to start from now to just spend that time with them, because when it comes to like increasing that time later on, we won't be so like, this is so unordinary for us.
So on the fourth point as well, so back onto the social element. So obviously when without a child, as an example with Michael McIntyre, we wanted to go out to the latest, to see the latest movie. Although yesterday we saw Minions for Jerry yesterday, but generally our pre-children movies we can go out. But obviously now with our little gremlin, I would say it's different. I know it sounds harder, but suddenly you kind of miss out on your social events and going out whenever you want, instead of being home by 6:30 to make sure Jerry's in bed by 7. Still going on from day one. But it's keeping that balance in social life. Obviously with time we realise that in marriage our friends do change. And at first it was, we was touched up on this in the last month's meeting, it's how your friendship develops throughout the stage of life as well as marriage. Obviously, especially during the hard times when it is difficult, it's not to hesitate to go out to see your friends who are close, who you can seek advice, as well as your family. Same way that your parents, our parents looked after us when we were growing up. They loved to help us. It's their continuous service, I would like to believe. So obviously for them to see their grandchildren is also generally a bonus. But it's really seeking that time out. So when we are together and it is a bit overwhelming, we do seek out to, I always encourage Tina to go out and see her friends. I don't necessarily have to be there just to switch off. But it's that balance, and it's using the time with our little one when we do want to go out on date nights and so on. We are fortunate enough to have our family and friends who can do that. But it really does manage our mental health. We obviously, when we come back from work, we are juggling. Just come back from a stressful day from work with me and her. We both want to vent out. We both want to eat. We both want to tone down and relax and watch TV. But guess what? We have a little one that we have to look after at the same time, to pick up from nursery, to bring him home, to feed him, to put him into bed and so on. So it's always that nice to have that release when we're together, and obviously when we can go out to our extended family and so on. Is that it? Cool. That's on our end. You guys got any questions? Yes, Mark.
Who does the cooking now?
Hello Fresh.
I'll be honest, Mark does most of the cooking.
I knew before
Yes.
the baby was
He
here.
loves it though, he loves it. But that's another thing I actually wanted to mention, because sometimes you need to think what works in your family life. Like, I don't want to spend my Saturday mornings cleaning all the time, because then it eats into my time. Sunday, we're at church, we see family. Saturday, I want to chill, I want to see my friends. So sometimes it makes, if people want to get a cleaner to come in and clean. It depends what you've got, like obviously what your means are, but at the same time you need to think about what can help your life. And like for me, I found actually, if I brought a cleaner in, maybe she can clean and that will give us some time. And it's just trying to see what would work for you. But yeah, HelloFresh did help as well.
Thank you.
نعم بخير والله. أيوة.
This is professional. Professional stuff.
Can you hear me or do I need this? I need it?
Yeah.
Okay. Therese, that's cool, by the way. Thank you very much for reminding us of what used to be. And I can tell you that there is no magic change or shift in what a family behaves. No. In how a family behaves around the children when they become adults. And that's the most important thing, as you want them to be holy. And that's why all you can do, there are stuff that you can do, and there is stuff you can pray about. The stuff that you can do is what we're talking about. And I will mention in the end prayers. That will cover fasting and prayer, cover the stuff that you cannot do. In other words, because sometimes you are right. Sometimes there are situations where you really are not prepared for.
Especially what's going on around us in the media as well. I think that's probably what you're referring to.
I don't know if it's progressing quicker than it needs to.
Yeah, definitely. The times are definitely changing. There's a lot more awareness of other issues, and I think the church really has a big part to play in educating mums and dads and how to deal with it, because it's just too out of proportion now. But the main thing is prayer as well for our children. That's all we can do.
Which is wonderful. This meeting is here for such a thing. And there is, I noticed overall in the Coptic Church in general, there is that strong move towards family and family problems in general. Now, one other thing, and one other point, number 4, is contentment and thanksgiving. Now, a home that is thanksgiving or giving or satisfied or content is a happy and strong.
Basically, the first point is probably the most important one for being in a joyful Christian home, to live the life of thanksgiving, to be thankful for everything, to not compare yourself to others, other children, what others have and what you don't have. Don't get into that routine, because then it's bad news. Just focus on yourself, being thankful in absolutely everything. Really, God provides us with so much. And those of us who've gone to Kenya, you can look at those lovely children who are just thankful. They don't have anything, but they're just so grateful and thankful for everything. Emad as well, when he's talking to the students of St. Cyril Trust, they are very, very, very poor people, but they are also very joyful, very thankful, because you know, they just appreciate everything. So that really is a big lesson for us to be thankful in everything.
Therese that mentioned the students in St. Kildare Trust, they are all inspiring. You talk to these guys, they have absolutely nothing. You don't know the poverty line they have. I mean, when I say poverty line, you think you can't afford to eat, you can't afford to travel, and it is absolutely that. They choose between going to university or having dinner that day. It's one or the other. You can't have both. And yet you talk to them, and they're very grateful, and they're very thankful, and they're very smiling. And it just breaks your heart, but they are living a life that I wish I could live, in other words. So a thankful home, or a content home, is vital to be a happy home. A couple must learn of each other to be satisfied and content. You know, man by nature like to make his wife happy in every respect. This is the nature. And the church stresses this in the commandments that you hear when you get married. The church is very wise, telling the husband, hasten to do which gladdens her heart. One of her favorite sentences.
Underline hasten.
If you're waiting, we attend.
I love that one.
She knows my command by heart. And the church tells the wife as well, you must receive him with joy and cheer and do not frown in his presence. And there is a reason for this. Because, to be honest, as I said, a man's aim is to make his wife happy. And when she's not, when she's always like comparing herself to others in church or at work or neighbors, they have better cars, they have more jewelry, they have nicer clothes, they have bigger house, it becomes stressful for the husband, who feels that he didn't succeed in achieving what he wants to achieve, in making her happy. So the church is very wise in telling the wife and telling the husband exactly what they think they should do.
Yeah, and basically that in itself will reflect on your children. When you are thankful, it's only natural that your children will be taught to be also thankful, because that in itself is very important.
Thank you.
If you see a child who is greedy or selfish, rest assured, this child did not come from a grateful and thankful home. It's as simple as that. The children, just like a sponge, they will absorb everything that they learn at home. Now, this here, listening, okay, this is an interesting one. I thought about it simply because there is overlap between people understanding of listening. Listening is different from hearing. Hearing is what you hear. Listening is actually, actively participating and taking interest in what you are hearing and sympathize with what you're hearing. And the difference between the two is actually stark. So when your partner is stressed, sometimes all they need is for you to just sit down and listen to them. They don't want anything more. They don't want anything more than you. And it is very prominent in a married wife, a married home. Now you see, there's a difference between man and woman here, because men are pragmatic in nature, practical, and women are very emotional by nature. So, if for example a woman comes home with a problem and starts telling her husband what happened at work, his mind is racing to find a solution to the problem that he's hearing. And then, while she's explaining to him the problem, he interjects a solution. And she gets very upset, because she's not a dimwit. She knows how to solve a problem. She probably solved the problem already. She's just telling him the problem. And all what she wants is for him to listen and to hear what she has to say. And vice versa. When a man comes home with a problem, usually men don't want to talk about